All right, now I'm going to have to tiptoe around this video. Let's call it what it is. But guys, today what I want to do is a prequel to my documentary that will be dropping on November 1st, 2021. What I'm going to do is talk about Anthony Fauci and the fact that, well, he should be arrested. He should literally be going to jail for what he has done to not just himself, but our country and everything involved. I definitely agree with Mark Dice's shirt. Arrest Dr. Fauci. Today we're going to get into that. I'm thejbgunner. This is thejbgunner TV. Let's go ahead and do it. Let's go.
Bring it back.
Now, before we get started, I'm just going to tell you that there's some things I'm going to have to kind of, like I said, tiptoe around. And before you're one of them jackasses, it's like, no, JB, give it to us real. Shut the fuck up. It's my channel that always gets flagged down because of medical misinformation and shit like this, so you can suck my dick. But let's really take a look at this situation today, because there have, of course, been new details that's emerged about the COOF Research Center at the Wuhan laboratory. Now, so I want to make this clear. Throughout this video, I will not technically be discussing the COOF or the jab or anything of that nature, because at the end of the day, that's all. Your guys' medical situation is your medical situation, and I want no part in it. I don't really give a fuck. But what I do give a fuck about is when our highest paid employee in our government, and you can check that, you can Google it, he's literally the highest paid government employee, when this person continuously lies and lies. And I reported on this a year ago, if you guys remember right. Now, guys, we're going to go ahead and take a look at this, because if you remember a year ago, I reported to you this exact story. Revealed, U.S. government gave $3.7 million grant to Wuhan lab at center of the leak scrutiny that was performing experiments on bats from caves where the disease is believed to have originated. I reported this to you, and I went in depth about the, what was it, the Pillsbury Institute, or what was it called? Let me check it out right here. The Gates Foundation, the Pillbright Institute. And we'll get into that a little bit as well. But the bottom line here is we're going to trace this all the way back. Now, my documentary that drops on November 1st will be much more in depth, much more detailed. This is going to be kind of just a mini intro into that documentary. This is going to give you the gist of what Anthony Fauci has done and why he should indeed be arrested. If you look back to this old story that I did, it talked about the U.S., the NIH, a government agency, awarded a $3.7 million research grant to the Wuhan. The lab is obviously the center of the controversy. The institute experimented on bats, which we all know. They were captured more than 100,000 miles away in Yunnan. And so we went through all of this. We talked about the COOF genome. We did all of this discussion a year ago. In fact, if you look, this article was April of 2020. I actually did a video on this in somewhere around March. It was April of 2020. The update was in May of 2020. That's right. So as we all know, we pretty much know that this was considered a conspiracy theory for a long time. I lost a lot of channels and videos. Well, not channels, but videos. I got struck a lot. I've lost thousands of dollars with my theory, which ended up becoming true. And it wasn't a theory based on my just making shit up. It's because I actually read articles. And when you read articles, you learn about something called gain of function research. What is gain of function research? Gain of function studies or research that improves the ability of a pathogen to cause disease. The U.S. government gain of research deliberate process and research funding pause on select gain of function research involving flus, MERS, and SARS. Okay? The entire point of gain of function research is to essentially create and improve particular pathogens so you can study it. There's two different reasons. We can use them as biological weapons, or number two, as we can learn more about it, thus being able to create perhaps jabs to protect from. You see the point. Now, me, like many of you, you're probably thinking the same thing I think. Why the fuck would we do this? Because an accident, like what happened about a year and a half ago, could happen, right? And let me explain to this. A lot of people knew this. This is exactly why it was outlawed in the United States. What many of you guys do not know is you can take a look at from Nature Medicine. This is 2015. A SARS-like cluster of circulating bat coofs show potential for human emergence. This existed all the way back in 2015. This is shit that has been discussed. This is shit that has existed this entire time. Well, you guys remember when Bill Gates talked about depopulation? He did it on his TED Talk. Now, I'm going to show you some things here, right? The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they fund a company called the Pilbright Institute. Now, the Pilbright Institute, in case you did not remember or know, they actually own a patent. They own a patent. The present invention provides a live, attenuated, compromising a variant replicate gene encoding polyproteins comprising a mutation in one or more blah, blah, blah. This right here, the Pilbright Institute owns the patent to the coup. Do you understand what I'm saying? This has been documented. It's well documented. And they actually have a disclaimer here. They say it's not for the new coup, just the family of coups, right? You get my drift. I mean, they're going to always put that disclaimer to make themselves sound better, and it is what it is. But when you look at the fact that the Pilbright Institute is involved, they are funded by Bill and Melinda Gates, that shows you their connection to this entire situation. Now, a little bit of background on everything. As you can see, this has been going on. This research has been going on. Everything involved has been funded and been going on for a long time. Now, let me give you a little bit of history, because what I'm going to talk about is where this all began. This began in North Carolina with a man, the work of Dr. Ralph Baric, a microbiologist and chemistry professor at the University of North Carolina, who had raised the eyebrows in the ire of the immunological community in 2015. Remember that year, because it's the same year that Bill Gates came out and did the TED Talk and said that something like this was going to occur. That said there would be a pandemic, and they even called it a coup-type pandemic, a respiratory pandemic. This was all predicted and discussed in 2015, right? By undertaking an unauthorized gain-of-function study for the synthesis of a supercharged SARS-CoV. Work strictly forbidden by both the Centers of Disease Control, the CDC, and the WHO, which that is true. The WHO and the CDC do technically forbid this research. Both Baric's hubris in ignoring a CDC contravention against gain-of-function studies and his clear disregard for the consequences of his activities immediately captured instinctual attention as someone whose activities bore closer inspection, of course, for potential connection to the Wu crisis that is now obviously a problem. In 2015, Baric's researchers at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, raised the ire of some of the infectious disease community when they contravened a ban on this hazardous gain-of-function laboratory studies. They successfully engineering a virus that combined the highly adaptable SCH014 surface protein. Remember what we talked about, spike proteins and things of that nature. We'll talk about that another time. With common SARS producing a potential pandemic super coup that proved fatal across species lines, infecting human lung cells and killing mice in laboratory trials. You see where we're at? The CDC had banned all gain-of-function testing on American soil in October of 2013 and eventually issued a ruling allowing North Carolina virologists to continue his work because his study had predated the ban by a matter of weeks. Continuing on. Bat coups are very often potential slate wipers in humans, and it is that lethality that made this airborne superbugs intriguing fare for researchers often willing to take ungodly risk in the name of science. So now we see what that risk was, and for potential profit, of course. More troublingly, it also endows those pathogens with effective layers of plausible deniability for bioweapons research, development, and deployment, cloaked in statistical relevance of an Asian petri dish where cross-species disease leaping in generational fact. But I want you guys to understand, what happened basically is they moved Barrick's work from North Carolina to the Wuhan. That is essentially what happened after it was banned here. In early December, we'll remember, the world was witness to the first case of the coup. Now, I show you this because the reality of this is that the research that started in North Carolina, that we funded through the NIH, the $3.7 million, was then sent over to the Wuhan laboratory. Now, Senator Rand Paul, he immediately, when this all kind of first started going down, he's been the one guy in Anthony Fauci's face saying, hey, you did this, you funded this, which was true. Let's go ahead and take a listen to this exchange before we continue on with bigger and better things.
Fauci, we don't know whether the pandemic started in a lab in Wuhan or evolved naturally, but we should want to know. 3 million people have died from this pandemic, and that should cause us to explore all possibilities. Instead, government authorities, self-interested in continuing gain-of-function research, say there's nothing to see here. Gain-of-function research, as you know, is juicing up naturally occurring animal viruses to infect humans. To arrive at the truth, the U.S. government should admit that the Wuhan Virology Institute was experimenting to enhance the coronavirus's ability to infect humans. Juicing up superviruses is not new. Scientists in the U.S. have long known how to mutate animal viruses to infect humans. For years, Dr. Ralph Baric, a virologist in the U.S., has been collaborating with Dr. Shi Zhengli of the Wuhan Virology Institute, sharing his discoveries about how to create superviruses. This gain-of-function research has been funded by the NIH. The collaboration between the U.S. and the Wuhan Virology Institute continues. Doctors Baric and Shi worked together to insert bat virus spike protein into the backbone of the deadly SARS virus, and then use this man-made supervirus to infect human airway cells. Think about that for a moment. The SARS virus had a 15% mortality. We're fighting a pandemic that has about a 1% mortality. Can you imagine if a SARS virus that's been juiced up and had viral proteins added to it, to the spike protein, if that were released accidentally? Dr. Fauci, do you still support funding of the NIH funding of the lab in Wuhan?
Pay attention.
Senator Paul, with all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute
Do they fund
of
Dr.
Virology.
Baric?
We do not fund.
I want you to listen, because those lies mean something. Those lies mean something. And in fact, Rand Paul right here, he'll tell you right here. Let's look right here, because this is recent. Fauci lied again. Because there's new Freedom of Information documents showing Fauci funded the construction of the chimeric goose in the Wuhan lab. This exists. It's not even that hard to understand. If you look at right here, The Intercept, more than 900 pages of materials have been released, and we'll get to that in just a second. This is the cusp of everything we're talking about. Fauci flat out lied. Arrest Dr. Fauci. It's a necessity at this stage. Let's go ahead and continue because I want you to get the whole conversation.
Do you fund Dr. Barrick's gain-of-function research?
Dr. Barrett does not doing gain-of-function research, and if it is, it's according to the guidelines, and it is being conducted in North Carolina, not
You don't think
in
inserting
China.
a bat virus spike protein that he got from the Wuhan Institute into the SARS virus is gain of function?
That is
You would be
not-
in the minority because at least 200 scientists have signed a statement from the Cambridge Working Group saying that it is gain of function.
Well, it is not. And if you look at the grant and you look at the progress reports, it is not gain of function, despite the fact that people tweet that,
So
they
do
write
you still
about it.
support sending money to the Wuhan Virology Institute?
We do not send money now to the Wuhan
Do you
Virology
support
Institute.
sending money? We did under your tutelage. We were
That's
sending
right.
it through EcoHealth. It was a sub-agency and a sub-grant. Do you support that the money from NIH that was going to the Wuhan Institute?
Let me explain to you why that was done. The SARS-CoV-1 originated in bats in China. It would have been irresponsible of us if we did not investigate the bat viruses and the serology to see
Here
who
we go.
might have been
Or
infected
perhaps it would be
in China.
irresponsible to send it to the Chinese government that we may not be able to trust with this knowledge and with this incredibly dangerous viruses. Government scientists like yourself who favor gain-of-function research.
I don't favor gain-of-function
maintain
research
that
in
the
China.
disease
You are
arose
saying things
naturally.
that are not correct.
Government defenders of gain-of-function, such as yourself, say that
He says he doesn't favor gain of function. Let me lead you to just right here. I'm going to lead you just to this page right here, okay? You can just Google it. He literally talks about gain of function. You can literally just Google Fauci and go all the way back to his HIV shit. The man has talked about it forever. Right here, the NIH, the national, this is the same group we're talking about. Gain of function research, right here. It's not that hard to understand. And then, let's go ahead and go to this video, because this
Bill Schultz, Chemical and Engineering
This
News. Dr.
right here.
Fouché,
Hold
I hope
on.
I'm not.
This right here, Anthony Fauci in 2012 admitted to creating a doomsday virus through gain of function research. Let's take a listen.
Misunderstanding, but you seem to be saying that the virus you created is not particularly lethal in the ferrets. And yet, Dr. Keim, you have said to me in a phone interview that this was, quote, the doomsday virus. How are you coming to such different conclusions, and what is the public supposed to understand?
So I'm sure I didn't actually say that, but I have heard people call it that. I did not call it the doomsday virus, I should say. Ron?
Well, so the virus is highly pathogenic in chickens. The virus is pathogenic in ferrets if you put a lot of virus straight down in the lower airways. But it's well recognized by everybody in the flu field that if you take H5N1 and stick it up the nose of the ferret really only gets the flu, a normal flu. Now, our virus is slightly different. It causes some neurovirulence, but certainly if the ferrets receive virus via aerosol route, we have never seen severe disease in the ferrets. Now, a ferret is not a human, and as Mike just pointed out, there's still serious debates about how fatal this virus is in humans.
To just clarify a bit, without predicting anything, without talking about any processes that will unfold, to the perception of, I think, most of us in the room, there was a perception, however it got there, that, and we've seen it on television, I've seen schematic diagrams of it on television, of a ferret in one cage sneezing on a ferret in the other cage. That ferret sneezes and they all die. This is what Ron has just said. I didn't say it. Ron just presented that is not what happens. When a ferret sneezes on another ferret, the ferret gets infected, gets flu-like syndrome, doesn't get sick, recovers, and does not die. And I think when you talk about forgetting about any other process, just the perception that's out there. Am I correct, Ron?
Now, if anything, our data suggests that this virus spreads poorly. It is aerosol transmitted and therefore scientifically very, very interesting to study. But whether this virus would, if it would ever escape from a lab, would start spreading, we don't know.
What he's talking about right now is gain of function research.
No.
It's not that hard to understand. Gain of function research. President Trump says that Fauci never told him that he was funding the virology lab in Wuhan, which we now know is true, and we'll get to that here in just a second. Let's get back to this okay, we pretty much beat this Rand Paul thing to to death. But because we're getting to the point here, because what I want to show you here, Fauci lied again. Rand Paul, who's read the 900 pages. If you look right here, he says, surprise, surprise, Fauci lied again, Rand Paul tweeted Tuesday. He says, and I was right about his agency funding the coup research at Wuhan. It's indeed correct. Paul's tweet followed a story in The Intercept that revealed the government pumped $3.1 million. Now remember, I said 3.7 into American health organization EcoHealth Alliance to back bat coup research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. According to the report, almost $600,000 of that federal money was partly used by the WIV to find and alter, that's right, bat corona coups that could jump to humans and infect them. Gain of function research. The documents made it clear that assertions by the NIH director Francis Collins and Fauci that the NIH did not support gain of function research is untruthful. Now, why does this matter? Because here's the thing. If you're lying to Congress like Mr. Fauci's doing, here's the reality of this whole situation. Section 1621 of the U.S. Code covers general perjury and stipulates that anyone who willfully and contrary to such oath states or subscribes any material matter which he does not believe to be true shall be fined or imprisoned up to 5 years. Section 1001 covers false statements more generally without requiring an oath. This section stipulates that whoever in any matter within the jurisdiction of the executive, legislative, or judicial branch of the United States knowingly and willingly falsifies or conceals information, including before a congressional committee's inquiry, may also be fined or imprisoned up to 5 years. So if you paid attention during that last section, you may have read that the general perjury comes with a maximum 5-year sentence and potential fine. The same basically goes for not telling the truth to Congress, even without an oath. However, if the lie under Section 1001 involves terrorism, that would include biological terrorism, the maximum prison sentence rises to 8 years. Now, do I think Anthony Fauci will receive any of this time? No. Do I think he should? Of course. We all know that Rand Paul thought he should. But if you take a look at this from The Intercept, it says one of the grants titled Understanding the Risk of Bat Coups Emergence outlines an ambitious effort led by the EcoHealth Alliance President Peter Daszak to screen thousands of bat samples for novel coups. The research also involves screening people who work with live animals. This research was done in Wuhan. The Bat Coup grant provided EcoHealth Alliance with a total of $3.1 million, which, if you remember what I said almost a year and a half ago in the very beginning of all this, bam, we go back to there. We go back to the original video that I made a year and a half ago when I covered this. Let's go on back. Including $599,000 that the Wuhan Institute of Virology used in part to identify and alter bat coups likely to infect humans. The coups they construction were tested for their ability to infect mice that were engineered to display human-type receptors on their cell. The grant was initially awarded for a 5-year period from 2014 to 2019. Funding was renewed in 2019, but suspended by the Trump administration in April of 2020. The second grant, Understanding Risk of Zoonotic Virus Emergence in Emerging Infectious Disease Hotspots of South Asia, was awarded in August 2020 and extends through 2025. So expect some shit going on in Asia. You pretty much get the drift. Guys, the truth and the reality about all of this, okay, is that Fauci has continuously lied to us, and I'm going to show you another example of him lying. Remember the face mask shit? Let's take a listen.
Wanted to bring you some pretty stunning comments from Dr. Anthony Fauci, who basically just admitted why and how the government lied to us about the efficacy of wearing masks. Let's take a listen as he explains the real reason they told us not to do that.
Here we go.
What about a month or so, or 2 or 3 ago, when people were saying you don't really need to wear a mask. Well, the reason for that is that we were concerned, the public health community, and many people were saying this, were concerned that it was at a time when personal protective equipment, including the N95 masks and the surgical masks, were in very short supply. And we wanted to make sure that the people, namely the healthcare workers, who were brave enough to put themselves
Right here, you're hearing the highest paid person in our government admitting he lied to you about something potentially life-saving to you.
in harm ways to take care of people who you know were infected with the coronavirus and the danger of them getting infected. We did not want them to be without the equipment that they needed.
It is
Just admits
hard.
it on live television.
Yeah,
It's insane.
Hard.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, guys, the entire point behind all of this, okay, isn't to talk about the coup, isn't to talk about... Listen, I think it's safe to say the origins of it, they're pretty much known. But what really matters here is the lie that's been told. The truth of the matter is Anthony Fauci specifically lied right in front of Congress when he had his conversation with Rand Paul. He's lied about this officially since the beginning. Do I think he'll get arrested? No. But the reality of this is, should he be arrested? Yes. This man has literally, and there's a reason why he lied about it. Because gain-of-function research was banned from America under the Obama administration, actually. And then it was restarted. It didn't matter, though, because the research was sent over to the Wuhan once it was originally banned in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Everything that I told you a year and a half ago that kept getting flagged down, it's come true. It's legit. Anthony Fauci has lied to you from day one. Should he go to jail? Yes. Question is will we ever have the courage and the balls to send him there? Probably not. Guys, let me know in the comment section what you think about this. This is actually a major video. I may have to put this on a channel outside of JB Gunner TV just to kind of see how it survives. You know what I'm saying? But guys, let me know in the comment section, what do you think? Should Anthony Fauci go to jail? That's the question. That's the question at hand. I would love to hear your guys' thought process behind that. I'll probably just put this over on the JB Gunner Classics channel. We'll see how that works. Guys, if you like what I do here and you want to support the channel, by all means, hit the links down below. Thank you to the Gun Squad who already support the channel. I appreciate you. Let me know what your thoughts are on this, though. It would be interesting to hear. My documentary on Anthony Fauci, which is a lot more, I guess you could say, better put together than this. It will be out on November 1st. Appreciate you all. But the reality of this is we needed to talk about jail for this man because that's exactly where he needs to go. All right, guys. I love y'all. I'm JB Gunner. This is JB Gunner TV. We'll get up out of here.